This video is a collection of random thoughts about Irwin Allen's classic TV show, and even more specifically, one of the greatest characters to ever hit the small screen. Dr. Zachary Smith, as played by Jonathan Harris, beginning in 1965. Lost in Space ran for 3 seasons here in the US. I didn't catch this show during its initial run, but the shows seemed to run forever in syndication during the 70s, and that is where I grew to love this show. And although the show's cast was incredibly talented, including the likes of Guy Williams, June Lockhart, and Mark Goddard, there were 3 other characters that really captured my imagination. There was the ship's robot. There was Will Robinson, played by Billy Mumy. And the man I love to despise, Dr. Zachary Smith. Prepare to enter a timeless land beyond the stars, where the strange collides with the incredible as you become lost in space. You'll share the brand of danger known only to those who explore the dark corners of the universe when you join the Robson party and that mischievous space hitchhiker, Dr. Zachary Smith. You'll encounter monsters, diabolical dwarfs, interplanetary transportation in the blink of an eye. Lost in Space, Wednesday night, 7:30, 6:30 Central Time on the CBS television network. I think it's worth noting that when the show debuted, both Williams and Lockhart, well, they viewed it as a starring opportunity. They believed that the show would give them ample screen time and allow their careers in Hollywood to further blossom. Of course, much like the mischievous Dr. Smith himself, I truly believe that Harris, well, he had alternative plans. You see, I believe that once Harris got his hands on that first couple of scripts, he realized just what a wonderful opportunity had been placed before him. It's not often that a villainous character is played with such zeal the way that Harris put his energy and enthusiasm into it. Never fear, Smith is here. Hired late to the show, title credits had already been negotiated, and at the end of the day, Harris would have to settle for a guest star credit for as long as he remained on the show. And you know what? That was just fine with him. Things had never been all that easy for Harris throughout his life, okay? And he had a way of showing everyone around him just how tough and resilient he really was. Originally, Dr. Smith was meant to be a minor character, but in just a few short episodes, it became apparent to everyone involved in the show that much like a certain deputy in the rural town of Mayberry, North Carolina, Dr. Smith was one of the focal points of the show. And, just like on Andy Griffith, scripts were all of a sudden rewritten and additional scenes were created specifically for the character. Dr. Smith's evil behavior made me mad. His cowardice, well, okay, I'll admit it, it made me smile. And through it all, I wondered if I were Will Robinson or another member of the Space Family Robinson, would I see him for the man he really was? As time went on, it became clear that Harris was a permanent guest star on the show. Dr. Smith was here to stay, despite the fact that his co-stars had thought the character would be gotten rid of after just the first handful of episodes. Some critics and even some hardcore fans of the show complained about Harris's antics as Dr. Smith. For all their complaints, producer Irwin Allen recognized who the true stars of his show were. They were the same ones that I recognized when I watched the show again in the 70s. Billy Mumy. Others have talked about their time on the show, as well as their experiences with Jonathan Harris. As you might expect, while everyone was polite with one another, there were a few hard feelings as the tone of the show changed and the focus narrowed from the entire family more to the antics of Dr. Smith, Tet, and his ever-protective robot. The question is, how does the movie Lost in Space affect all the collectibles that are out today? Here to tell us all about this, Alan Shrim. Good to see you, buddy. How you doing? Great to be here. Now, how was the market for Lost in Space with the old television show? How is that market doing, and how does the film influence that today? Well, I think the film is going to have a lot to do with whether or not the new toys will go up, but I think a lot to do with the cable stations. Lost in Space, again, has a lot to do with the resurgence of the old stuff. Oh, so there is a resurgence. Oh, totally. I think a lot of people who forgot about Lost in Space and a lot of the toys and the collectibles that were out there are now beginning to realize and get into it again. Okay, and especially they're pretty rare. Okay, let's talk about some of the older collectibles. Now, let's start with the cards. What do we have here, Alan? That's the Topps card set that was put out in the 60s. It was a 55 card set. It's probably one of the rarest of all the 1960s non-sports card sets that are out there. And it's a set of 55 and really hard to get, especially in tip-top condition. You get the full set in tip-top condition. You're going to pay anywhere from maybe $700 to $700 to $1,000, depending on where you buy it, whether or not at auction or at set sale. No kidding? Everything is expensive when it comes to Lost in Space, especially the vintage merchandise. The prices are insane, right? Talk about prices being insane. Let's talk about this one. This is unbelievable. This is my prized possession. This is amazing. Tell us about this. Psh, this is the Roto Jet gun. This is probably by far the rarest of all 1960s toys. Toys, period. Not just Lost in Space. I'm talking about everything. All right? All the 1960s toys. This is the most rare. It was just sold at auction recently, and bids from all over the world were calling in to bid on this. Okay. And it actually probably realized about 3 times the value that anybody thought it was going to be worth. So it ended up going for how much? It's almost $15,000. This went for $15,000. This went for $15,000. Almost 15. Think like 14,800 or something like that. So that's unbelievable. All right, let's talk about that, because when you talk about Lost in Space, everybody remembers the robot. So let's talk about the 2 robots that we have here, especially this one here. Yeah, that's the Ahi robot. This is actually the second one that was put out in 1977. The first one was put out by Remco, which is actually the same company, I think, and they made it in 2 different colors. That version, though, probably will sell today anywhere from $700 to $1,200. The early one, the very first, the very early one. This one here, of course, is a little bit less desirable because it was made 10 years later. But it was still a popular toy when it was put out then, and today, that one still commands about $300 to $500. $300 to $500, and that's the one from 1977. That's the one from 77, from Ahi, Azrock, Hamway. Okay, this one looks old, but it's new. Okay, that is actually a reproduction of the original Aurora model kit. Was put out by a company called Polar Lights, who is putting out some fantastic stuff on the marketplace today. And I had put this kit together as a kid, and to redo it again, and to repaint it, and to take, I did half. It took me half the time it did as a kid to put it together, but it was just a great amount of fun. And the original Aurora kit probably sells for about $600, $700 in the box. Here's some of the new collectibles that have come out just recently. How is the movie going to affect that? I think that the movie, whether or not it's going to do well, will have some sort of influence on how the toys will do. But a lot of movies attain cult status, even though they don't do well sometimes at the box office. It's like Nightmare Before Christmas didn't do well. The toys were closed out for $10. The same toy that you could have bought of Nightmare Before Christmas for $10 is now $600 today. It's like a Sally doll in the box, so anything could happen with Lost in Space. It's really a roll of the dice right now because it's a little bit early, but the kids will determine that. Playing Mantis is putting out great stuff. The kids are going to love a lot of these pieces that come out, and I think if the young kids get into it, it'll bring up the value, definitely, in the long run. Thank you for stopping by. Appreciate it. Great. All right, so thank you very much for your support, for your support, for your support. Thank you very much. Click on that thumbnail because it's time to go. Dave's got the classics. Let the memories flow. TV shows and movies that we all hold so dear on his YouTube channel. He's keeping memories near. Dave Sunner, bringing back the good stuff. Yeah.